Welcome, vegetarians, non smokers, and teetotalers. Today I'm joined by Andy Smith for our third discussion of a Narnia book, Voyage of the Dawn Treader. We've done Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and Prince Caspian on Andy's channel. And here we are at the third book, at least in publication order. And how are you doing, Andy?
I'm doing well. I'm not any of those three. Am I still welcome into this stream? Oh,
Well, I think you are, because that's apparently what C.S. Lewis hates is vegetarians, non-smokers, and teetotalers. So
we will talk about his great shots at Cambridge and woke parenting or whatever at some point. But I'm doing actually really well. It's really cold in Minnesota. So it was nice to read a warmish book, and I just slipped on the ice, so my back's a little sore. I'm an old man, I'm realizing as I'm saying this.
Is that why you were late?
No, I wish I could say that, but the honest answer is I can't. So I finished work at 5:30. I came back at like 5:45, and then was like planning my night, and then just looked up and it was 6 o'clock. So I can't give that as a good reason.
Well, that's all right. Thanks for joining us. Escape to Books. Enjoy your dinner.
Escape to Books is the best like live vlogger, or like on our chats for this read along is better than I think either of us. So
yeah, well,
apologies to her. We will do better. I will try to do better.
I just finished the book like an hour ago, so it's fresh in my mind.
Which people might think, pessimistically, wow, she had a month and a half and you just finished it today. But you guys should know, I think this morning she was on chapter 2. So this is very impressive how much of this read today.
I did. It's a really short book. And I think that was part of why I agreed to do this read along in the first place. Because I was like, worst comes to worst, I can just read it the day.
Wait, real quick. I want everyone to know, Redbook is the one who asked me if I would be interested in Narnia. I didn't force her to do this.
Did I say no? You mentioned Narnia first.
No, that is not true. Check the tapes. We were like, we should do a read along, and you were like, I've been wanting to do Narnia, and I said, oh, that'd be fun. I would reread Narnia.
But I feel like you brought it up on a stream, and then when we followed up, you said I brought it up again. This is what I remember.
Oh, we'll see. But it would definitely.
I think it was in our.
I agreed to do this. It was a little aggressive, Rid.
No, yeah, no, that's fair. I definitely wanted to do something with Andy, but I feel like we landed on Narnia. I was willing to do Narnia, even if it was me, the one who brought it up. It was because it was so short and
everyone out there. I'm a little touchy because today we found out that how Spotify does their Spotify Wrapped. So apparently Discord does their Discord Wrapped, and they tell you who your Discord sidekick is, and mine was Ridbook, but Rid's was some guy named Used Chicken.
my fiance.
And so I'm just the person who thinks Rid's my best Discord friend, but she actually doesn't really care about me at all.
74 messages. I think Nat and I have 5,000 messages on Discord. So
okay. We don't put a number on it, Rid. That's a little hurtful.
No, it's okay. You're one of my close friends, Andy. I care about you.
We're airing all our dirty laundry. This is what happens when I'm late for a stream. Anyway, so after much cajoling, the reason that you agreed to do this at all is because they were short books and you were able to read them in one day.
Yes, and this one was particularly enjoyable, I will say. I loved this book.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. I think so far, Voyage of the Dawn Treader is my favorite Narnia book. I think it slaps, and it's very different than the other two. Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is fun because it's classic children's literature. We all know the story, fun time. We both agreed Prince Caspian's a worse version of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Yeah. Then Voyage of the Dawn Treader gets kind of weird and just kind of does its own thing. It's got a little bit of a darker tone and feels more adventure-y. There is some danger in it a little bit more, I think, than Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. and I liked it a whole lot more. And I think from here it really keeps getting like has that weird tone. And actually, I forgot that really the strength of I think Don Treader is later,
Hmm.
or not Don Treader, but Don Treader, but like in the Chronicle of Narnia generally. So I'm glad you
Yeah.
agree. I was a little nervous after Prince Caspian that we might have lost Rid from Narnia, but I'm glad this one pulled her
No,
back.
I'm on board with Narnia. I think even after Prince Caspian, I think there was still a lot in that book to think about. And I mean, I talked about this in my last Vlogmas about reading books that I don't necessarily agree with, and like there's still being value to that. And I think Narnia, especially, part of the reason why I wanted to read it was because of its place in the fantasy genre. So even though if there's like on a personal level, I don't always agree with C.S. Lewis's moralizing, but like it's still interesting to read it because of its influence. And this book specifically was the first time, well, I think there's moments in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe where I felt like enchanted by the world. But this one, I feel like consistently throughout, I just had so much fun with it. And especially towards the end, I found it to be so imaginative and
Mm-hmm.
just there were things in there that I had forgotten that I was just delighted by, like the sea people
Yep.
and the silver seas and the descriptions of Lucy, like just looking at the water. And I think that it really captures that beautiful like fantasy journey. I think I love fantasy books where there's no plot. They're just like walking or they're that's like Lord of the Rings kind of where
Mm-hmm.
they're just like
Yeah.
walking and it's about the journey. So I it really works for me here, and I think a lot of the like the previous books have also been largely plotless, and I thought that in this book the the things that I don't like are still there, but they feel so much more minimized compared to the things that I love, like the just the weird stuff that happens, like every little weird vignette that they go through and the weird little islands that they stop at. There was so much more of that. And I also, starting at the beginning, I think that this book had the best like transportation to Narnia,
Oh
where
yeah.
I just love that. I think the wardrobe is iconic, and I think the wardrobe plays into that sort of children pretending and like that sort of there's like a kernel of just like childlike wonder in the
Yep.
wardrobe. But Prince Caspian had the worst Narnia entrance in my
Yep.
opinion, for sure. And then this one, I loved it because it's just how many times have you been at a museum or just staring at a painting and being like, "Oh, I wish I could climb into that," or
Mm-hmm.
like there's that magic to it. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And actually, as you're saying that, like I think it reflects how the tones are different. Like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is like this children's story, and like as children, you always have that experience where you're like playing hide and go seek, and you're like in a whether like a closet, or you're behind a couch, or you go like into the woods further than you thought, and like for a minute you're like, what if I'm in like another world? And they kind of like use that fun childlike brain to have like
Mhm.
this really cool transportative experience, but the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, it's more magical. It is just like this, like fantastical, like even in adult portal fantasies, this would stand out, I think, as like this
Oh,
really
yeah.
beautiful idea of just like there's this kind of nondescript painting of the sea, but then you look at it and it seems real. Then all of a sudden, like the water comes through and they're wet,
Yeah.
and like, and again, like there's like danger, like they're like,
Mhm.
unable to swim for a little bit. Uh, it's so good, and also that first it opens with like the great opening line of there was a boy called Eustace Clarence Scrubb and he almost deserved it. It's a
Mhm.
great opening line. uh like the whole first chapter is just like so good.
The whole first um paragraph where it's describing Eustace, but it's really more his parents who are like I think C.S. Lewis just there has to be like a specific couple that pissed off C.S. Lewis, and he was
Yep.
like, "You know what? I'm gonna write you into my book, and you guys are gonna be the most annoying people ever." But like the specific descriptors, like vegetarians, non-smokers, are so funny because he's just like taking all these things that he doesn't like and ascribing them to someone who's extremely annoying.
Yeah.
And we all do this, where we're like, "This person is specifically annoying, but I'm gonna." like harp on them for something that's completely not actually related to why they're annoying. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's super like as I'm reading like the stuff that he lists, it's also funny because this is now like 70 years old, 75 years old from when it was
Mhm,
published. So like it's not I'm sure at the time maybe this was perfectly like maybe applied to like a certain segment of the population, but
mhm,
this like no longer really applies specifically to any one like group in our modern context, right? Like vegetarians, like some might think that's like a lefty thing, at some
mhm,
parts, but then there's like non-smokers and teetotalers are like, like a religious category, you know what I mean? Like
mhm.
people who don't like, so like they don't really fit into like any sort of like specific box, which makes it more fun because then it is just like C.S. Lewis pointing out stuff he doesn't like, and that he doesn't call his mom, dad, father, and mother, but Harold and Alberta.
Mhm.
And I think later on in the book, there's a funny line where Eustace talks about like Alberta. It's
Yeah,
it's really funny. Also,
yeah,
that they're from Cambridge, which of course, C.S. Lewis is an Oxford man, so he also
mhm.
got a jab in at the university rival.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny because it was, like, that times version of, like, ragging on, like, some granola hippie who, like, drinks beef broth and, like,
Yeah,
uses, like, beef tallow for skincare. It's just really funny in that regard.
in the
I
modern Voyage of the Dawn Treader, is Eustace's parents like I don't know, like natural food
Mhm.
influencers or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, there is totally that subsection of population that still exists. Their aesthetics have changed and their, like, practices have changed, but they still exist.
Should we try to? We probably shouldn't try to list. We'll get in trouble.
Yeah.
Like they drink raw milk and
Yeah.
I don't know what else.
Yeah. But I found that really amusing. And in general, I think Eustace's character is really, I part of me was like, I don't know. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Eustace.
Yeah, so I think I forget if this was in a personal message, one of our 72 very important messages, or this was on our live or like our on my Discord where we're doing kind of the read through. But you did say like the characters feel more real in this book.
Mhm.
At least the three main ones, and I agree with that. I think there is like some pretty consistent, like Eustace is like a fully rounded character. Like you
Yeah.
feel him immediately, his voice, like he's annoying when he's annoying, and his redemption when he redeems really hits. But also like C.S. Lewis is a tough balance of like having a character that is annoying, that you make annoying, and for like the first half of your book, it's okay for people to pick on him and treat him sometimes unkindly.
Mhm.
Um, but then also like with the dragon episode, which I'm sure we'll talk about, like you do really feel for him and like the body horror elements and like
Mhm.
what it would mean even to be like a kid who suddenly finds yourself in this body. Like
Yeah.
all of that like felt real. Like Eustace might even have been more real than the Penavese, what's their last
Heaven
name?
sees.
Bevances. Like
Yeah.
outside of Lucy, they kind of like we've talked about this before. Like
Mhm.
together they're kind of well-rounded, but like not individually. And
Yeah.
even in this book, Lucy stands out. Edmund doesn't really stand out that much.
Yeah.
But like Eustace is like maybe the best character so far in this series. Is that heresy to say? Narnia heresy?
Did you say Eustace or Lucy? Sorry.
Sorry, Eustace, I think.
Okay, yeah.
And in a
Um,
way that Lucy, I think, in Lion the Witch and the Robe does stand out from everyone else of being more well-rounded.
yeah, I think Eustace is the one who at least the most dynamic character. Because most other characters, they sort of come on the page fully realized, and they
Yeah,
are very consistent in their characterization. And I mean, Edmund also is pretty dynamic.
that's true.
Um,
And that's a good point because he gets a redemption arc. He's not just
yeah.
like
But
good
then
older
once
brother,
he
like
goes through his redemption in Prince Caspian, he's just sort of there,
yeah,
like it's not like he's going through continual redemption. And I think there is a version of this where it's a little bit more complex, and Edmund maybe has more empathy for Eustace. I think there's like one line where he talks to him after he's been redeemed, where he's like, yeah, I used to be kind of, I think it was like, all you were was an ass and I was a traitor or something like that. He probably didn't say ass because it's
He
a
did
kid's
say
book.
something like, "Yeah, I was worse what I did," which was a good moment for Edmund. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but that came after Eustace's redemption, and I almost wish that, like, Edmund had been able to it would have been more interesting if Edmund had been able to see that in Eustace and, like, recognize it and be like, "Yeah, I've been there before, I've been that guy," and maybe tried to be a little kinder towards him. Um
I also was kind of hoping that Edmund would have one more sort of like, for lack of a better phrase, kind of temptation to his other
Mhm.
side. Like I actually thought the Gold Island. We should talk about this
Yeah,
maybe in
yeah.
like order. I thought that was going to be like another like maybe Edmund has another test because he seemed to be like he's drawn to like the Turkish delight. Like he likes
Mhm.
these kind of like nicer things. That seems to be like his tempting, but it never quite came about. I thought there was going to be a little more there.
I think
Um,
the religious overtones in this book are more undertones in this
yeah,
book.
yeah. Until
They're
the
still
end,
there.
which I want to talk about.
Yeah, they're still definitely there. Um, but, talking about the Gold Isle is it called Goldwater? And then they
And
change
then they
it
call it
to
Death Water or something,
Deathwater,
yeah,
yeah.
which sick
Yeah,
name.
love that. And it was really cool. I think it was, there was a moment where Caspian they realized that, like, this pond turns everything in it gold, and, Caspian, like, sort of immediately realizes the implications of this and, like, claims it for Narnia.
Yeah,
And then the Edmund is like, "Well, I'm actually technically
the
king,
High King.
so"
Yes, I
yeah,
thought that was interesting, and it
yeah,
it it resolved very quickly. I think it's just like Aslan is on the far shore or something happens like that,
yeah,
right?
and then Aslan just kinda shows up, like, not even in person, just, like, the feeling of Aslan,
Yeah,
and then they're like, "Oh, yeah, we should not, be greedy here."
yeah. That yeah, there's a couple times where it feels like that's a little too easy, but at the same time, that does allow it to keep, like, moving, so I
Mhm.
understand maybe why he's kind of doing that.
Yeah,
Aslan
Aslan
Jedi mind
sure,
tricks
yeah.
them, yeah. And then because they don't remember, right? Don't like
Yeah,
they
they forget.
which I didn't like that detail. I was like, "No, like, they can grow, or,
Mhm,
like, make the choice." Alright, so let's try it's hard because it's so episodic to not talk about these specific things. So let's talk about try to be, somewhat, linear. So they get in the bedroom, we talked about that.
mhm.
Hold on. In the bedroom, they go into
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
picture. Don Treader, Prince Caspian is there with Reepicheep, which is cool. And then, like, I actually think this is pretty brilliant. They set out pretty clearly, like, this overarching mission, which is there's 7 lords
Mhm.
that like went away because
Yeah.
of Prince Caspian's uncle. And so we should go find them, and we're kind of just like looking for glory. And this is like a fun voyage. And it's like perfect. I know that like probably gonna have like 7 stories, although it doesn't work out perfectly like that. But like, there's some
Mhm.
stories we're gonna figure it out. Keep sailing. Great, I'm in it. Like, I think it's a very simple setup that is like really well done. Like, you immediately kind of buy in and are excited about this.
Yeah, and I think Lewis does a really good job of immediately providing, like, cool stuff happening
Yep.
on this voyage, um, but yeah, I think that that beginning part is almost near perfect fantasy, like, it's just a great setup.
I also appreciate how I don't know what the right word would be, but like sea voyagey it is. Like, he spends like a whole couple pages to be like, all right, so this is what a poop deck is. This is what the
Yeah,
fore and aft is. This is what
and he's like,
port
"By the
side
way, you
versus
need to
yeah.
know what starboard and port side is if you're gonna
Yep.
read this book." I
Yep.
like that, I appreciated that. Um, I I feel like in the past I've said that I don't like nautical, like, seafaring books, and I think that's a lie.
Nautical was the word that I was looking for.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I think that's a
Wait,
lie
live ship
because this book
traders
was
though.
I know, I think I'm it used to be that I didn't, and then I started to read, like, actually good nautical fantasy, and I think I just read really bad ones to begin with.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other ones that I've even read though. It is not used that much. Wow, by the way, my cat is right next door to it looks like I have a giant cat. She's just very close to the laptop. Sorry, nautical fantasy. There's not a lot of them. Like, besides Live Ship and this one, what are some other ones that you have?
Well, I don't like when a series doesn't start out nautical and then it becomes nautical, like Lies of Locke Lamora is like this,
Well,
but
that's because that series sucks. This
you didn't like the first one?
this is a hot Andy take. Yeah, I did not like the
Guess
Lives of
what?
Black
Guess who
Tomorrow.
else doesn't like the first one?
Rid?
Used chicken.
Oh, my sometimes friend, sometimes rival. No,
Yeah.
just friend. Just friend. Has he okay, well, no, we can't talk about that here. I gotta talk to Nat about that because it is the economics in the Lies of Laclamora frustrate
Mm,
me to no end. But we can talk about these later.
I'm curious, but yeah, we'll we'll talk about it another time. What were we talking? Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
the second
nautical
one is like
fantasy.
red ships over
Yeah.
something. Yeah, that is also yeah, I can understand that's frustrating. Okay, I gotta focus here because I'm thinking of live ship traders too much, which I love very, very much. But I do like that they're like he is not afraid to like throw new things at you, but
Hmm.
also like he's consistent. He keeps talking about it, so like you quickly get this mental image. And then the first thing we do is the Lone Islands,
Hmm.
where very quickly we're thrown into this slavery plot line, which immediately I was like, whoa, we're
Yeah.
going oh, sorry. Okay, so this is the thing that I couldn't focus on because I wanted to say this. The book that this reminds me of most, speaking of other nautical stuff, is Wizard of Earthsea.
Oh yes, yeah, definitely. Like especially with the shadow stuff at the end,
Exactly.
going to the end of the world, like it's
Different
very similar.
islands.
Yeah.
Like it very much felt like Wizard of Earthsea, which I feel like it's kind of funny because I think that's been a series that has been kind of beloved in our corner of booktube, like the
Hmm.
fantasy booktube, whereas Narnia has been sort of like I understand why because of the religious overtones, but sort of like I don't know,
Yeah.
not really talked about. But like I think they're very similar, even in tone. Like Kayla Gwen like is very it's a very surface level, purposefully like story.
Hmm.
Surface level in like a simple way, not in like a
Yeah.
depth of story way. Like this book is. It really reminded me of that experience. But anyway, sorry, Lone Islands. They go off. Lucy and Caspian and Edmund or no, Eustace, those three are captured into slavery.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I well, obviously Lewis is saying that slavery is bad for sure.
Yep.
And so it's interesting from that perspective. But I think there's a moment here where I actually feel like Lewis goes a step too far in his depiction of Eustace, at least, where there's a line where he's like, Eustace, like, no one wanted to buy Eustace, like, even as a slave. And I was like, that is unbelievably cruel to write even about a fictional character. Like,
Mm,
I couldn't I don't know, that really took me out of the book for a second. But overall, I think it was like really interesting that he included slavery in a book about 4 kids, and was, like pretty baldly saying like this is bad, like we should not ever accept this. And like Caspian takes a very hard stance against the slavers. So I guess it's good from that perspective, but it definitely represents a step up in maturity for Narnia.
yeah, like the thing I noticed about it is how, yeah, step up, particularly in the danger of the main characters. Like when they get captured on like a slave ship, it's like, like I'm scared. Like I don't know what's gonna happen to Lucy. Like we
Yeah.
love Lucy. Like it's not good for her to be on a slave ship. And I do think he tries, which with that content level, like trying to keep it light is kind of like an impossible thing.
Yeah.
And speaking of live ship traders, it also has a slavery plot line that is brutal and I think really deals
Yes.
with this really well and
Mhm.
talks about the brutality of the idea of people owning other people and how like awful and evil that is. And obviously this doesn't do this. And I think that's why Escaped was saying like it feels like it's sidestepped.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
and I think the Eustace like plotline is trying to be comedic about it. Like, she's just this annoying kid, but it's kind of an example of like not being able to have this very heavy topic
Mhm.
with also this sort of children comedic tone. It's really hard
It's
to
definitely, yeah, there's like a dissonance there. Yeah. I'm thinking of, yeah, the plot line in Live Ship Traders, which is so brutal, like you said. Like it's terrible. It
yeah.
goes to such dark, dark places, and it deals with it really well, in my opinion. And also, like I read Kindred a couple years ago by Octavia E. Butler,
Mm,
which is like a very just stark view of what chattel slavery, like antebellum slavery was like. And it's terrible. Like it's just like I think our modern sensibilities, like you can't really you can't invoke slavery without it being like this very intense, heavy thing.
Hmm.
And I think that part definitely it took me out of the book a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, at least like, you can think of some times where maybe this would be dealt with where like the slave trader was trying, would be like redeemed or something. And they never like do that, right? Like it is like
Mhm.
those people are evil and bad and they get either killed or exiled. I think I forget how exactly that ends, like the bad person they have. But yeah, not the best, but it does sort of from a narrative perspective really raises the stakes, I think, as a reader of being like, oh man, this is like they're not on rails here.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like there's actual danger posed to the children this time, whereas like in the past I feel like Aslan has always come in at that last moment and prevented even anything bad from occurring.
Yeah. Um yeah, okay, so they do that, right? Lone Islands. Let's look at the don't have my chronology perfectly, so I'm looking at the table of contents. Okay, so then they go and then there's this big storm for like weeks. And that's the other thing actually that like I was thinking about. This is by far the longest that they are ever in Narnia, right? Like normally I
Mhm.
feel like the other two adventures are like a couple days, maybe a couple weeks. I mean, except well, I guess they become kings and queens of Narnia for forever. So I guess
Yeah.
that happens at the end of the book. The actual like time in the book itself is a
Yeah.
lot longer. Like there's like this took like a month to get here. This took 2 weeks, or they were here for like 5 days. I noticed that immediately because in Lion Witch Europe and Prince Caspian, really like things happen like the main stuff in the plot happens very quickly.
Mhm.
I don't know anything else about the storm before we get to.
Yeah, no, not nothing in particular.
All right, so then we are to chapter 6, which is the
We
adventure.
well, okay, actually, we do get a little bit of epistolary novel in this book with
Oh, that's
Eustace's
right, with his
journals,
journal.
which are really funny because he's like just lying in his journal about how many days they've been like at Storm for, and he's like, it's been 13 days, and then, like right before that, the narrative's like it's been 3 days.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, Eustace.
I thought that was
Um,
really fun. That chapter I forgot about that, but you mentioned like I remember that was very very fun, and it's like
mhm.
again like C.S. Lewis changing stuff up a little bit from the other
Yeah.
books. Like we talked about how Prince Caspian sometimes feels a little bit like a tired sequel to Lion, the Witch, and the
Yes.
Wardrobe, and this is
Yeah.
like the opposite. This is just like I'm gonna have fun. I have ideas. I'm gonna try it, and like again for a kids book, it's fun to like mix stuff up, like a different
Mhm.
even like style of telling the story, and even his like voice as a narrator sometimes I felt like was a little different. Like he
Mhm.
kind of spoke it kind of like he was a traveler at points. He was like, "Well, I don't really know exactly what happened to Reaper Cheap, but I like to think this." You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there was
You
kind of that fun element.
The way he addressed the reader, I feel like was almost like he knew that it was the same reader from Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and now they were a couple years older, and so
Hmm.
he's addressing, I think, an older reader in this book.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, going back to like teaching nautical terms, like I feel like that would have been too much in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but it's not here. So the storm, and one of the important elements of the storm is they lose their like mast, or there's damage to mast, so they have to like pull into this island that they find, and that's where everyone comes ashore. And Eustace doesn't want to help set up camp.
So he slips away,
Hilarious. So he slips away and climbs a mountain.
and
And
then
then
he
yeah,
comes across a dragon, which is pretty crazy. I feel like that was cool. I had forgotten that there were dragons in this book. Um, And I was just surprised to see that. And then the dragon dies, which I think was hilarious. And because it's funny, like later on when people go looking for him, they see a dead dragon, and they're like, surely Eustace didn't kill this dragon.
yeah,
um, and then he goes into the dragon's lair and finds this hoard of treasure, which I think even as an adult, like the idea of a hoard, like a dragon's hoard of treasure, just excites me
yeah.
and just like activates some like sort of kid treasure pirate matrix in my brain and activates that like little kid part of me. And it was so exciting. And so and then he just falls asleep on this pile of gold and wakes up as a dragon.
Yeah, and I remember from my first reading of this, like this is a very vivid. Something hit me about this when I heard it the first time and read it the first time, because I remember this going into Dawn Treader. That's what I remembered, and I
Mhm.
remembered it down to like that his bracelet that he puts on like stays on his arm, and like I remember as
Yeah.
a kid, like, oh, that must like hurt so bad, and like it really was like a, I don't know, maybe like my first introduction to like body horror, right? This idea of like, what
Mhm.
if your body changed in a way that like did not, you weren't ready for. And it's written because it's written from his perspective, right? He sees one hand and he moves his hand, like you're very much in his
Yeah.
head. And there's just like, it's weird, like immediately it's like, remember he goes out and he eats the other dragon, or at
Yes,
least
oh my
parts of
god,
the other
that was
dragon.
weird. I was like, I was not expecting dragon cannibalism in Narnia. That was cool.
It was so cool, and it was, yeah, because at the same time you're like, oh yeah, okay, and then you're like, wait, that's kind of fucked up, C.S.
Yeah,
Lewis.
that's like a Malazan level, like
I know, it really is. And then it's like, okay, so what is he gonna do? It's like all of that was so fascinating. And he
I
flies.
thought that the whole thing was gonna be that when he takes the bracelet off, like, he'll turn back into, like, his normal self, but what actually happened was really was weirder and better, I think.
Yeah, yeah, so yeah, because it's like it's not easy. And I remember this being like we've talked about redemption sometimes, especially in the first line of the Metro Road, being a little too easy.
Mhm,
And this almost I feel like is like a very um like a completely different take on like what it takes to like either atone for wrongs or become a better person or like work on yourself, for lack of a better term. Because what
mhm.
happens is Aslan comes, but instead of Aslan just like making it better and like, ta-da, like
Yeah,
I forget if he transports him or they fly together or something, where they get to this bath, right?
yeah.
um and Eustace takes the bath, and then like he feels that his outer skin like can come off, and so he like
Mhm,
works really hard like and it gets off, and then he finds another one, or he like bathes again, and then it's like, okay, this is harder to get off, and then Aslan has to like use his claws to start like
mhm.
ripping it off of him, and it hurts, but like he
Yeah,
has to keep doing it, is to keep getting in the pool, coming back and hurting it, until eventually he's like this kid again. Like I just think that's like a in like a very clear, like sort of Christian, analogy of this, what this whole series is. Like, it's a much better picture of like, if they're, I'm not going to make any judgment calls on what is or is not real in this religion, but like, if you believe in a person that like encourages you to be a better person towards other people, like, it shouldn't just be like, it happens, because that's not how it's like.
mhm.
You have to work at it. You have to like, be active in your own sort of like making better choices and being a better person, even if it like hurts you. And
Yeah,
oftentimes it will hurt you. It's to your maybe not detriment, but like, it's hard to work on yourself. And I think this is like a really like beautiful way in a children's book to portray that.
yeah. I think, like, literally shedding the skin of, like, your dragonish greed and, like, having to yeah, like, really difficult through that really difficult process of, like, shedding that outer layer and, like, revealing your sort of inner child,
Yeah.
like, I liked that metaphor, and I liked that it was them going on this sort of mini journey together, and not just Aslan, like, flying over the hills of Narnia and, like, healing all the sick children, which happens
Yep.
at the end of Prince Caspian, I
Yep.
believe. Yeah, it was a really cool sequence. I
And
will
that
say
yeah, go ahead.
oh, go ahead. Okay. I will say, I think that, looking forward, I feel like this is really where Eustace's, like, role ends, because he doesn't do much after this. Like,
Yeah.
after his redemption, he sort of just becomes, like, one with Lucy Edmund, and, like, they just sort of become, like, the kids,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar to that, except the one thing I like is also that Eustace after this is not like completely changed, or like
Mm,
he's better, but there are some times where, well, I should say, I also like that it's not, once he becomes back into a kid, it's like all done. Like, you still have to go through kind of the awkwardness of coming back.
yeah, yeah.
And that's when I think Edmund has that nice conversation with him that we talked
Mhm.
about. And like the difficulty of like, you have to now rebuild your reputation because that other stuff is still real. And I think at one
Yeah.
point he like plays chess with Reepa
Yeah.
Keefe and like it's cranky. And then he like,
Mhm.
isn't as, so like there is like more of a, again, full rounded character that Eustace is. But you're
Yeah.
right, like his like actions in the story to like propel stuff is not done. But I guess like as I'm thinking
Well,
about it, oh, go ahead.
well, yeah, I like I say that, and like I think his like arc is done, but I actually think that's fine because I feel like that arc, like you describe it, it's very satisfying, and so it's fine that it sort of like ends towards in the middle of the book, and then he just kind of goes along with the rest
Yep.
of the journey. It's like actually fine that it goes that way.
Yep. And that yeah, I mean that's kind of his thing. And as I'm thinking about it, each of the three kids, well, no, I guess Edmund doesn't really get one because Lucy kind of gets her trial, so to speak, with the magician's book, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I guess maybe Edmund gets his, that's supposed to be sort of the water, like Edmund and Caspian together, the riches. Although that I
Mhm.
think maybe is the weakest of those three for sure in my head. But yeah, this is kind of Eustace's trial or temptation, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and then Aslan, I like that he sort of, I guess this is a good point to make this observation that I felt in this book, where I feel like in the previous books, Aslan coming in and saving the day, like I've been really negative about that. But in this book specifically, I was just thinking about like that role of Aslan and how if I was a kid reading this, um, it almost like makes the story feel safer in a way for the kid because like you can put yourself in the shoes of the Pevensies a little bit more easily. First of all, if they are kind of like not fully like don't have like these really strong personalities that you can't project yourself onto as a kid, but also I feel like I would be like, okay, if I was dropped into this world, if I was Lucy or Edmund or Eustace, like there's this feeling of safety in there, I guess, along
Mm-hmm.
with the adventure. Like, okay, I could be doing this adventure, but then Aslan would come and save the day. And I think there is something to be said about that feeling of safety that Aslan represents within the story. And like sometimes, yes, it does rob the narrative of some like um momentum, but I think in this book, Aslan's like sort of saves are really well placed.
I think that's well said. And I think even if we want to take it outside the religious context, because I do think there's, a lot of people believe in religion, whether Christianity or others, where there is this outside force looking out for people. But even if we go outside of that, like the reason that we have this like category of like children, right? Humans who aren't fully formed is like we understand that like there should be people that look out for these people that aren't fully developed, right? Like we as a society should
Mhm.
be looking out for kids. They should have people who, if they find themselves in a scenario that they're in danger, will save them.
Yeah.
We'll look out for them. And so even if it's not religious, like there's this idea of like kids shouldn't have to figure this all out themselves. And it's I think appropriate in these scenarios to have, you know, other people or forces that help them
Yeah, or like almost just like
grow.
a parental force.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
just your dad, like
Yeah, no,
you
I think
go to
that's
your
right.
dad when you get hurt or like you need help. So I think that that interpretation of Aslan I think really works in this book.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. So that's the next. Let's go. Chapter 8 is Two Narrow Escapes. I had to quickly skim to see which were the two. The one is a sea dragon, which is cool. A sea
Oh,
serpent.
yes.
Love me some
Mhm.
sea monsters. And I like that it's like a very kind of like silly, but in a fun way that they like figure this out, which is just the scary serpent tries to like circle their ship and starts to
Mhm.
squeeze, and they just all have to push it at the same time.
Yeah.
And then it goes off, and then they escape because the sea serpent's kind of dumb. I thought that was like, because like they can't have a full like battle. That's not really what
Yeah.
Narnia is. So it is kind of a fun way of getting a sea serpent in there without it getting too crazy.
Yeah, and I just love sea serpents. I think they're such a cool, you can't have a nautical fantasy without a sea serpent scene, so I liked it. I thought
Yeah,
it was
it was
great.
great. And again, Live Ship Traders. I guess I'm just like trying to get people to read Live Ship Traders when I think about nautical, but like also has a great sea serpent storyline.
Yeah. Some people
Um,
don't like it, which is valid, but I like it.
it's not valid. Those people are wrong. Live Ship Traders is amazing.
Escape to Books, made a good point with being able to see Eustace's journal post
Oh
redemption. That would have
yeah.
been really cool.
Yeah, that would be great. We do get to see some more redemptive Eustace later on in the series. I will not spoil anything else, but he does return. I guess Aslan says that at the end of this book.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that would be fun to bring back the journalistic aspect of it, or epistolary
Yeah.
aspect.
What
The
happens
second,
after the sea serpent?
so the sea serpent is the one narrow escape. The second narrow escape is the water, the Midas storyline, King Midas storyline, the water that
Oh,
turns
right.
to gold. So I think
Gold
we talked. I
water.
think actually is done very interestingly. Like there's that statue that they're like, why is that
Oh,
statue? And
yeah.
then the sun comes through. Like it's told very beautifully
Yes.
and quite well. And then I think we already said like the conclusion of it. I think just like could have been more interesting and that would have made it better. But I feel like even Lewis kind of knows that he didn't conclude it well because he just threw it into the same chapter as the sea serpent. Like it's not its own thing. I don't know.
Mhm.
Anything to add to that one?
No, I did really like it, like, when you were reading it and you're like, "Oh, is that gold?"
Yeah.
Like, this an a pond or whatever it is, like, body of water that turns everything it touches into gold. You're like, "Ooh, that activated the same treasure pirate
Yeah.
mind of mine." But yeah, I agree. It's like Lewis will like introduce stuff, and then I think he knows that it's too complex to deal with in a
Yeah.
kid's book, so he just like sort of backs off. But yeah, that was a fun little sequence.
Yeah. And it does feel like he, like Lewis made a list of like fun stories that he could kind of pull from and kind of tell in fun ways, right? Like, okay,
Mhm.
so there's like the dragon. We can do a dragon storyline. Yeah. Okay. So like, okay, stuff turns to gold. Yeah, that's a good classic trope. Like all of this
Yeah,
stuff. And it is like it works. Like it's just like these fun little adventures that are happening. I do think where there's not quite as much as I would like is like I would kind of like Edmund to have a little bit more of a moment. And this I think was the closest thing we got to an Edmund moment.
yeah, like you're like the temptation, for sure.
Yeah. But then we're on to a much more interesting, I think, storyline, which is the Island of the Voices, which is a great name for a chapter, and instantly, like, it's such a fascinating chapter. Do you want to
Mhm.
take the description of this?
Sure, I'm gonna go off of memory, but
I mean,
basically
it's the
they
memory
are.
of a couple hours ago, right, Red?
Yeah, so it should be pretty good actually.
Sorry,
um,
unnecessary shot.
cat butt
Yeah,
on
I was
camera.
trying to not get any cat anus on our video, but I think I failed.
It's okay.
She's very proud
Um,
of it.
I'm proud of it too. We
Ugh,
love her.
and she's back,
She's so
Minnesota.
consistent.
She is consistent.
Um, but yeah, so we arrive to the island of voices, and I don't remember exactly what happens, but basically Lucy like bends down to tie her shoelaces, and she hears these people talking, and they're like, "Grr, grr, grr, we're gonna like ambush these other guys," and Lucy's like, "Oh no, I gotta like warn my people," and so she like goes over, and then stuff happens, and then the voices are basically like, "We're gonna kill you if you don't help us get unuglified," I believe is the term that they
Yep.
use. That there was this magician who turned them quote ugly and also invisible, and that she needs to go into the house, and it has to
Well,
be
no.
Lucy specifically.
He turned them ugly, and then
Uh-huh.
they, because they wanted to get rid of the ugliness,
Oh, right.
remember, sent someone, and that turned them invisible.
Right. That is
So they did
correct.
the invisibility to themselves.
And they want Lucy basically to go into the house and turn them back to normal, essentially. And so Lucy, being our intrepid, brave young girl, goes into the house and goes on this really crazy adventure of looking through the magic book. And it's really cool because does all these different spells. Like she does a spell to know what her friends are thinking about her. She catches them gossiping. There's a spell to make her feel really beautiful, and then she almost does that, and then
Mhm.
Aslan like stops her from doing
Yeah.
that. And it's interesting too because I think this is a moment where you see Lucy's like always played very straight as like a very goody two shoes character, to almost to like her own detriment. Like sometimes people don't believe her, even though
Mhm.
she's never lied. So I don't know
Yeah.
why you wouldn't believe Lucy. But like there's a moment of like a little bit of complexity to Lucy's character where she feels jealousy for compared to Susan, and she like wants to be perceived as beautiful as Susan is
Yep.
perceived. And so yeah, she has this really fun adventure with the magic book, ends up finding the spell to turn the voices back visible, and then she like meets the magician. He like sneaks up on her because he doesn't wear slippers, so he's like really quiet, which is a detail I really liked. And
That's right.
his
He's
name,
barefoot. I had
yeah,
forgotten that. Yeah.
and his name is Coriolanus, and he's just a cool, quirky wizard guy that we learn more about actually later on in the book. I think this is the best scene.
Koryakin.
Koryakin. And yeah, I think this is the best scene for like world building specifically. I think it was just really cool. And like she has a little dinner with him. I feel like Lewis loves to just inject a little
He
bit of
does like his little
feasting.
dinners or little teas.
Yeah, it's like all right. And also they had some lamb and like cheese and pears and apples and stuff. Yeah, she just like has dinner with him, and then he tells her like the backstory of the voices and reveals that they're like these mushroom monopods. um
Yep.
that was very interesting.
Duffel puds is what he calls
Yeah,
them. They're
the duffers.
one-footed, basically like dwarf-like things.
Yeah, and they're like worse. What are those things called in Willy Wonka?
Oompa Loompas?
Just Oompa Loompas. They're like worse Oompa Loompas because he would try to get them to like do stuff, and they would bury boiled potatoes in the ground because it would help save time later.
Yep.
Wash the dishes before dinner because it would help save time. Very, very entertaining section. And then,
Yep.
yeah, I guess Lucy just succeeds and turns them back visible. And then, does she de-uglify them or do they stay the same? I don't remember.
Well, so I'm trying to remember something about like, so we hear the interpretation from the magician that actually like what they perceive as uglifying is like something that helped them. I forget what it was.
Yeah,
I
was confused by that part.
He was like allowing them to jump higher or something. I don't remember the exact thing, but like it was something to help them, but they like perceived it as uglifying. And this is like part of Lewis has a real streak of like he's really concerned about vanity, particularly in women. Like the Susan and Lucy bit, but also like with the duffel puds now, like they're so concerned with what they look like that they are not like realizing what the magician did for them.
Yeah.
And like obviously people can be vain and that causes problems, but there's also kind of a weird, kind of sexist twist to it sometimes. That will show itself much more with a latter Susan thing that we'll get to. That is kind of much talked about, but the only I would add is like this whole storytelling is like really, really cool. Like I think the thing that sticks into my mind is the Eustace turning into a magician, but I had forgotten how cool this storyline is. The magician's book and all the spells that are going there, and that like how close what happens in Narnia like coincides with our world. Like this is kind of the first time where like there's a real like consequences across the world, which I think, as you said, is like a really interesting world building. And we find out later that what is his name? Not Cornelius. Coriacus is like a star that came to Earth. There's so much cool, like just stuff that's happening. And then I love a good tea when Lewis is telling me about it. So all this was really fun. I liked all of this.
Yeah, the star thing in particular, I was like, "Ooh, I love that," because it reminds you of like Gandalf and the Maiar. What is Gandalf? Maya. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's
a great pull. Yeah, and what I also loved, like, there's no like, maybe there is if I like thought about it enough, but like there's not a clear one-to-one Christian allegory going on here, right? Like this is not like a Bible story where there's like stars coming down and now it's happening in Narnia. This is just like Narnia lore that like Lewis thought of and thought would be cool in the book, and like I think that's makes it much more fun.
I agree. Yeah, it's just some random,
like, if this magician, like, I don't know, was John the Baptist or something, like it's like it's not that,
Yeah,
which is good.
Yeah, Lewis actually using his imagination for once.
Ooh, sick burn.
Oh,
Dab
no.
on him. Get him, Rid.
Uh, getting Andy to
Suck
dab
it,
on
C.S.
stream.
Lewis.
You hit that so quickly too.
Thank you. That is
Not
something
a
I do
moment's
actually
hesitation.
an embarrassingly amount in my life. I really enjoy dabbing.
It's okay. There's so many things that I do ironically that I just now do like earnestly.
Yep.
So it's okay.
It happens. It happens to us all. Okay, great. We are done with that. Any final things to say about the magician before we move on? The duffel pods?
No, I'm just excited for the magician's nephew.
Oh, man, there's a couple of recurring things in Magician's Nephew in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's gonna be good.
Komodo
next,
Sanders said Coriacus is King Melchizedek from the Bible.
Melchizedek
Okay.
is in the Bible. Really? Melchizedek, I think, is like a 13-year or like a kid who becomes king.
That would be like Prince Caspian.
I wouldn't think of. I'll have to think of the parallels. I'll have to go check that out. Melchizedek is one of the few good kings in the Old Testament. Yeah, Magician's Nephew, I'm very excited about. The next episode is The Dark Island, which I actually do think is quite creepy. And I remember as a kid thinking was creepy.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty simple because they just see kind of this cloud on the horizon, and then they go into the clouds or whatever, and it's just like dark, no light. They can't see the other side of the ship, and then they just start hearing voices, and then one of the lords, they fish out of the sea, and he's like nuts. He's like, turn around, this is awful, this is where there's this great moment where he's like, this is where dreams come true, or something like that. And then like everyone's like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. And then I think he actually just says, no, where dreams come true.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, holy fuck. Like, people start freaking out, and then they just like row, and then they just like I think it's a bird that kind of leads them out that has sort of an Aslan.
Yeah, the albatross.
The albatross, which is an interesting choice. Guides them out.
Why is that interesting?
So like because of the poem of the albatross around the neck. Is that Poe? Hold on. Albatross poem.
I'm getting educated. So
Samuel Taylor Coleridge, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. So this is from 1798. I'm getting multiple dates. No. The text is from 1834, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. So Lewis did know this, but it's about what's the easiest way to? There's basically a curse brought about by someone who killed an albatross. A sailor kills an albatross, which you're not supposed to do, and it becomes this curse on this ship that leads to destruction. And so it's just interesting that like Aslan takes this albatross and like guides them to safety as a reflection of that poem.
Another moment where Aslan is not necessarily just like fixing everything, but there's like a little bit of like something where they have to work at it. They have to like actually like sail out of there. And there's like tension of like, it's taking us longer to get out of here than it took to get in here. One of the lines is like, we've been rowing for longer than 5 minutes like on the way back. I really liked that section. And I think it's also interesting because I feel like, again, Lewis invokes something that's actually really deep and dark and like very heavy with having this character, Lord Roop, I believe his name is, just be like lost in this dream world for 7 years. And there's a line where Edmund is like, let's not dwell on it. And I think that's like Lewis being like, okay, I recognize that what we've done here is like really crazy, but we're going to just like back away from it slowly.
Yeah, it reminds me of Inception, the movie.
Yes.
Where like there's this idea of dream space that is like unformed. What do they call it?
The
Uh,
subconscious?
no,
Limbo?
because it's like limbo. Yes, yes. There we go. Where like if you get caught there, you just like can't trust your mind. You forget who you
Hmm.
are, and you're just like there. And it's kind of like that's what this idea is basically. Is like you get lost in dreams and you don't know, and then like you lose your mind. And
Yeah.
I remember even in Inception, like thinking about, it, I was like, oh, that's I don't like thinking about like if I can't trust my mind and you lose your sense of self and like what that means. And it's basically that's what he does. And then yeah, they're like, okay, don't think about that too much. There's just this one crazy guy, but it is pretty dark. And of course, like a really interesting like twist on like dreams coming true or like what your mind can think and like the dangers involved there. I think it's just cool
Yeah.
and
It's
terrifying.
interesting too because I feel like as the book goes on, the terrors become more and more sort of nebulous, like more abstract. And I like that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it becomes less like people against people and more like magical things happen or beings against beings, I guess.
Yeah, consciousness
Yeah.
versus reality. Yeah.
Which brings us to probably the weirdest. Well, yeah, I think maybe the weirdest section where they come to a land where there is just this table that is set with like amazing food. And there are like the three lords that we haven't found yet are
Hmm.
sleeping there, and they're still alive, but and their beards have continued to grow, but they're basically like in comas. Uh, and then everyone's like, "Well, what?" And then like I even thought I was like, "Oh, obviously, like they ate this food. They're not supposed to eat this food," which
Yeah.
is what like they
Yeah.
figure out. But like that's not what happens. It's just that okay, Min, I know.
She's protesting.
No, I want to talk to Red. Um okay, so like and then they like sit there all night because they're like, we want to see what happens, and Reaper Cheap is like, honor and glory. Which a couple of times I'm like, Reaper Cheap, come on, like
Yeah.
calm
When he wants
down.
to fight the sea serpent.
Yeah, proving yourself a little too much there, bud. Compensate him for something a little bit. Let's just anyway. But he convinced them to stay, and then like a door opens in the mountain and out comes this, like, in my mind it's like a jolly green giant. I know that's not really how it's described, but that's how I thought of this, like, older man that's kind of like the jolly green giant who like a light comes out of his mouth. I'm trying to remember the exact descriptions. You read this 15 minutes ago, Rid. So it comes out of the mouth,
Yeah.
and then he comes and like sings, I believe, and then like all of the albatrosses and the white birds come and eat the feast,
Hmm.
and then like magically there's more food, and then he goes back in the mountain, right? Isn't it something like that?
It's almost like that. Like it's the timeline is slightly adjusted because he comes and like I think he before he comes, his daughter comes
That's right.
out.
Yes, yes.
And she's like this really beautiful
Who
blonde
Caspian is
girly.
instantly like hubbada hubbada
Yeah.
hubbada.
Yes. And it's unfortunate because she does not have a name. She's just known as the old guy, the Jolly Green Giant's daughter, Ramondu, I believe his name is. And so like literally she's referred to as Ramondu's daughter.
Really?
Does not even have
Oh,
a name. Yeah. And so she comes
you
out
are
and she,
right. Yeah, even in the last day, Ramondu's daughter. Oh man.
yeah. Oh, C.S.
Woof.
Lewis. But yeah, she comes out and she's like, "Hey, you guys can actually eat this food. Like, you're not gonna, nothing bad
Yeah.
is gonna happen to you." And then she explains how the lords came to be slumbering, and it's this knife of stone or something where they were like fighting over it, and then they like
Because that's
had
the knife that the White Witch
yes
used
to
to
kill.
kill Aslan, which is kind of cool. It's like
Yeah.
because that's the Holy Grail. It kind of like that's the idea, right? Is
Hmm.
the Holy Grail obviously isn't like a knife, but it's like held Jesus's blood. This shed Aslan's blood. So like again, he's like taking fun stories and like stealing from them.
Hmm. But also
Uh,
just like within the Narnia world, it's cool to see stuff like come back and like
yeah.
be relevant again.
And
So
the thing is that they drew swords on each other, right?
yeah,
That's kind of
yeah.
their ultimate crime, which again is sort of a I just watched the tragedy of Macbeth last night, so it reminds me of like the ancient custom of like guests or
Hmm.
whatever. Like when you're fighting, like that is like a one of the worst things you can do, and it kind of feels a little bit that's what Lewis is getting at.
Yeah, yeah. So Again, they have a little feast. And then that is after they have the feast, they're like, what are you gonna do with all this food? And Ramondu's daughter is like, don't worry, we are zero waste here. And
That's right.
the birds come and eat all the food.
That's when the guy like comes out and sings, right? And
Yeah.
okay. And then the birds eat, but then there's more food afterwards. And then they're like, how do we break the curse? And
Mhm.
then it's like, someone's got to go to the end of the world.
Yeah, like you have to go to the end of the world, but one of you can't come back. And Reapy Cheap's like, well, that's what I want.
That's what
So
I've
let's
always
go.
wanted. We forgot to mention that Reaper Cheap did like hear from like someone who raised him, or like a nurse or something, like
Yeah.
sang a song for him one time. That was some kind of prophecy of him getting to the end of the world or something. And so he's like,
Yeah.
fine with me.
I think it's great and it's really cool that it's Reapy Cheap in this book who has the prophecy. I think it's like a fun, almost subversion of the typical fantasy setup where it's like the chosen one. Like I think in any other book it would be Caspian who has this prophecy, but I
Yep.
love that it's Reapy Cheap who has a prophesied future.
Yeah, and it's just like about him. Like it's not
Mhm.
like this will bring honor and glory or whatever. It's just like, yeah, and then Reaper Cheap, you'll find your thing. Whatever you're looking for, you'll find it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're like, yeah, okay, we can do that. And then I do like there's like this question of like getting the crew on board with
Oh yeah.
going further because they're scared from the Dark Island and like
Mhm.
the end of the world, so they don't understand. So like Caspian turns it into a competition, which I think is just like this is a funny Lewis thing where it's
Mhm.
like, oh, it's gonna be hard to convince him. He's like, all right, only the strongest is gonna be able to do it. So you guys are gonna have to do a competition, like take a night, and then we'll like, if you're willing, apply and we'll see. And then like everyone wants to, except one guy that
Yeah.
Lewis goes on like a long rampage to shame of being like, yeah, he was there, he had to eat all the food, it was super lame. And then, later on in life, he had to lie about that he actually did go to the end of the world.
I thought that was really actually like I liked that little section because I was like, damn, it must suck to be this guy. Like you have a little moment of hesitation, and then for the rest of your life, you get to be like the one guy who didn't get to go to the end of the world.
Yeah.
That would have eaten me up from the inside.
Yeah. Yeah. More than the birds eating up the feast. It would have eaten you up on the inside.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. And that's like not fun, but like, again, sort of like a testament of courage, right? Like, don't let just like your fear kind of guide you, which is a good, like,
Mhm.
children thing as they're figuring out the world, or like
Yeah.
what other people think of you, necessarily keep you from doing something that you might regret later.
Yeah. It's also cool. It's like a cool Caspian moment, like his whole psychological manipulation as
Yeah.
king. I think it was like actually like really cool to see Caspian um shown as this very competent and like wily
Yeah.
leader.
And he also, we skipped over it, but he does get that in the Lone Islands as well, where he kind of plays
Mhm.
the secretary, whoever's there.
Yeah, yeah.
They like fake that they have an army coming, and it's like this idea that he has to like basically take control, and it's like really well executed. I think actually
Mhm.
even the chapter is called like "What Caspian Did There," which is a pretty
Yeah.
cool title. So yeah, that you're right. He's shown to be very competent.
Oh,
Oh,
hello, Minnie.
and she's back. Don't show your butt to the internet. Okay. Then we're off to the end of the world, which is like, I just thought every chapter as we got closer to the end
Oh,
of the
yeah.
world was more and more like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like Lion the Mature Order doesn't really get like page turny. This got
Mhm.
like, I want to get to the end. I want to know what happens at the end of the world.
I agree. Yeah. I love this part because it's so like oh my god, when they're in that section and Rippy Cheap is like comes out and is like, "It's sweet. The water is sweet."
Mm-hmm.
That is so cool. It's
And like
just like
it feels more, and like they taste it and they don't need to
yeah,
eat, and
yeah.
suddenly the sun is not as bright as it was because it's been getting brighter.
Mhm.
Like all of that, and like that, I think at one point they say like you can't see the sea or the horizon from the sea because it's all the same, and
Yeah.
it's like the white flowers, like every single step in the whole thing is like incredible.
Yeah, this is also the part where Lucy is like looking down and they see the shadow of the ship because the water is so clear. It's like
Hmm.
silver water. And like she can see, like she can just, the water is so clear that she can just see the topology of the ocean floor.
It gets closer and farther away. She
Yeah.
figures out
Oh,
that's what's going on.
I was like, that is so cool. Oh, I love that part.
And like so like what like the mer people obviously are cool. Reaper Cheap wants to fight them with, again, calm down, Reaper Cheap. And then but
Yeah.
then like after even you're by like he even goes into this whole thought process of like, oh, like the reason that they must be in mountains is because like the
Yeah.
trenches might be scary, and so they're on like mountains in the ocean, just like we're in valleys in our world.
Yeah,
uh
that was cool. I really liked that. That's also like a really good piece of world building. Like really just for a really throwaway scene, like
yeah, it's
it's
like a
not a
paragraph.
huge, yeah, not a huge part of the book, but I really liked that. And the way that he described it as well as like something that Lucy and Edmund discussed later when
Hmm.
they were older, I
Yep.
think it just added this like sort of depth to the story where it's like and like, skipping forward a little bit, we know that Lucy and Edmund, this is their last time in Narnia.
Yep.
And so it's almost like this sort of like that melancholy of they must have been like talking about this journey as brother and sister and like reminiscing. Oh, yeah, I really liked that little section.
Yeah, and it is an interesting idea of like, I think now, like, I have three sisters, but we like live in different places or whatever. But like if we had gone through a childhood like where we were kings and queens in another world, like it's like a weird thing to think about, but in a cool way. Again,
Yeah.
kind of connecting our world to Narnia a little bit more than the other books had done.
Mhm. Yeah.
I would also say for C.S. Lewis readers out there, he the water specifically, and like how it made the sun less bright and like sustain them a little more, reminded me of another book of his called The Great Divorce, which is
Mm.
about like the afterlife. And one
Mhm.
of the things he talks about is about the afterlife not being like a heaven. It's a like a fictional portraying of someone journeying to like the next life. And at
Oh.
first, and it's more adult, at first when they get there, they can't touch anything. Like they slide through tables and they can't sit down or anything because like they're not solid enough, because like they're still from our world and they're not like in this
Oh.
afterlife where things are like more real.
Mhm.
And so I forget like what happens, but eventually like the person becomes more solid and so they can actually like partake in things. But it reminded me a lot of that, this idea. So that's in
That's so
the
cool.
Great Divorce. It's really
I
interesting.
love stories about the afterlife, so I wanna read that now.
Yeah, it's I forget most of it, but I remember specifically that as a very cool aspect.
Tangent, but have you watched the new movie Eternity?
No, ooh, I'm impressed. It just came out like 2 weeks ago, though, right?
Yeah, I think I watched it pretty early on, because I was curious about like, I love afterlife
Yeah.
stories, so I really wanted to watch it, but
Elizabeth Olsen, and then who are the guys? There's somewhat.
Callum Turner and Miles Teller,
Yes, yes, yes.
Dua
And like,
Lipa's fiancé.
and I think the idea is she had a husband who died in war, and then she had like a long life with another husband, and then in the
Yeah.
afterlife you have to choose
Yeah.
one person to be with for forever, and so she has to decide, which is like a great premise for a movie, both
Yeah.
comedically and like, I don't know, existentially, and kind of the idea of love across time or whatever you want to say. Was it good? Should I see it?
It was definitely good. I think it's just a fun movie that asks a lot of different questions, and I think the writers do a good job of really exploring each of the different combinations and possibilities of like answering that question of how who does she choose.
Mm-hmm.
So I really liked it. But there that version of Afterlife, if that is really what is waiting for us all, I that sounds terrible. Like like it just like sounds like the way they set it up is like you really commit to one eternity. And so it's like, oh, like that it just you'll when you watch the movie, you'll see what I'm
Okay.
talking about. But it's a good movie. I recommend watching it. Before we get back to talking about Voyage of the Dawn Treader, what other C.S. Lewis books have you read outside of Narnia?
Oh, so I've read all the Narnia books. Um, I've read a lot of his Christian books because,
Mhm.
as I've said in other books, I was a evangelical Christian for a long time. So I've read Mere Christianity, which is like his basic, like, you know, it's a apologetic book of like the basics of Christianity, and it's quite good
Mhm.
for what it is. I read the Screw Tape Letters, which is a fascinating
That's the
book.
one where he's talking to the devil?
So it is a young, or it's an older demon
Mhm.
called Wormwood, I think, writing letters to a younger demon, Screwtape, about how to basically tempt someone who's trying to be good, like a human.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's really good.
Mhm.
I haven't read it in a long time, but like I think even outside of like if you really want to read it as like it's obviously Christian in its outlook on morality, but it just like it's a very interesting thing about like the older demon Wormwood talks to Screwtape about like how to make them, be greedy without like being obvious about it, and
Mm.
those kind of things. So I read that. I read The Great Divorce, as I said before, and then The Problem of Pain, which he wrote after his wife died. He's a very good writer, and I do think even for people who aren't committed Christians, he has like very interesting ideas. I
Yeah.
have not read his sci-fi series,
Hmm.
Paralandria,
Interesting.
I think, which is like more adult, which would be interesting.
Yeah. Back to Voyage of the Drawn Treader. So there's 7 lords that are lost, 7 deadly sins. I feel like you could map each of the different islands to a different
Oh,
deadly sin, because like, so obviously the first one, I think that's pride.
because of uh, wait, the first. Why would be the first one Pride?
Like the slavery island, I guess, just like,
But the Lord there, remember, he just like meets someone and is like, "Oh, I'm just gonna stay here."
yeah, well, I guess not necessarily the lord specifically, but like each of the different islands and like the conflict that they encounter there is associated with it. Is it, yeah, like, it could not be. I might just be mapping the 7 deadly sins onto the 7,
I want to do it now. This is a fun.
because I was thinking, so like the first conflict that they encounter is slavery. Pride is what I'm thinking.
Well, okay, so here's the question I would have is depending if we want to do it with the lords or not, but it could also be sloth because the guy just like settles down and isn't like going forward on the adventure.
Well, I was thinking the sloth would be when the slumbering lords, so like the one of the later ones, because they're just sleeping.
That's true, but like the reason they're there is because of wrath, right? Because they drew on each
Oh,
other.
yeah, yeah.
um
You might be right with sloth for the first
well,
lord
let's do the
specifically.
easy one, right? So like greed is almost certainly the gold, right?
Goldwater, yeah, gold.
Greed is gold. And then the rest of these. Okay, so 7 deadly sins: pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, sloth.
The lords could also be gluttony because of the feast? Question mark?
Okay, I'm gonna put that down. Feast. So wrath would be. Let's do that feast as well.
Oh,
Sloth.
wait. Greed is not, wait, greed could also be the dragon. I think that's pride. I think the dragon lord is pride. Because remember, they think that he's the one who, at the dragon island, he's the one who turned into the dragon and is the dragon who died that Eustace eats. I
Yes,
think
yes.
that's pride.
What do they say about the Lord?
Because they find his mail and they're like, why is just his mail here and not his body, or like there's
Yeah.
no bones? And like then Eustace finds his bracelet in the hoard.
Okay. Oh, so is that pride or is that greed again?
I was thinking it's greed, but I feel like the gold water one has to be greed, so I was thinking this one is pride because of the dragons, and like
Okay,
dragons are associated with pride, I guess.
I like that. Dragon. Okay. Um. Well, but also, well, okay. Sorry. Where are the rest of the lords? I'm trying to think because I was like Lucy's Island, but there's no lords at Lucy's Island.
Yeah, the magician's island, the voices. I don't think this actually works out.
No, but it's been fun.
It was interesting to think about.
So that's been us talking about the 7 deadly sins, and let's talk about the end of this book now. Another cool thing I thought about the end of the world is like there's just like this big wave with this crest, but then it's like shallow, like they can walk
Yeah.
in the water. Is like what? Like I think that is so fascinating. And
And then
then
they're also like daisies or something, like the water turns into daisies.
yeah, the
That was
silver
very
sea.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, just all of it was so beautiful. And then Reepicheep just goes on his little canoe right over. And then it's
Yeah.
like, we don't really know what happened to him. We like to think he went into Aslan's country, which also is described so cool as mountains, but not with ice on the top. It's just greenery all the way up. Like that's just like, that picture is so startling.
Yeah. Aslan's country, I feel like, was described so well to make it seem like, ooh, that sounds like a fun place to go. I want to go there.
And then I want to talk about this. This actually I really liked because I thought it was, well, I'll just see what you think about this. So this is interesting. The first time they see Aslan, or not the first time, this time when they see Aslan, he is a lamb
Yes.
who says, "Come have breakfast." Now that is, I feel like that's supposed to be like, listen, if you haven't gotten it yet, this is Jesus.
Yeah, and then he serves them he serves them fish too, which I
Yeah.
feel like is also very Jesus-y.
Which Jesus does in the Bible. After he is resurrected, he serves them fish and he eats fish to prove that he's like still physical. So like this is definitely like calling on biblical themes of Jesus. But what I like about this, at least now it's like it is like clear. Like Lewis is like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. I'm not trying to like hide it from you. You know, I'm a Christian. I think the good guy is Jesus. And
Yeah.
something about that, I don't know why, because it is obvious in the first one, but something about this like, okay. And also that it's quite clear that he's like, yeah, and I'm also, you know, in your world too. Like, you know, this is all connected. If
Yeah.
for some reason, I don't know why, but something in my head is like, okay, so he's at least like acknowledging all this is the same thing. This is the religion that he follows. Like, he's not trying to like slip in anything.
It
He's
feels
just
more
telling you what it is.
honest. Yeah.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
just feels like, okay. Like I'm okay with it being a Christian allegory, you know, if it's honest. I don't think there's
Yeah.
anything wrong with that. Like
And maybe part of it is like, it's no longer really an analogy. It's just like, yeah, Jesus is in other worlds and sometimes he's a lion. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of what he's saying, which is like, okay, yeah, that seems, I don't know, something about that. I think honest is the right word, feels that way. And maybe Luce is doing that on purpose because like he doesn't have to have him be a lamb. There's really no reason for it. But I wonder if he's just being like, yeah, I'm gonna make this on the nose. Like this is not like I'm not trying to trick anybody. That's what this is.
I also just like the juxtaposition of the lamb turning into the lion. I think that's cool. Yeah,
And they have some delicious fish, which
of course.
sounds amazing. Lewis is really good about making food sound so good. Like obviously famously with Turkish Delight, but even like the dinner they had at the Beavers, so good. Even like the apples that they eat in Prince Caspian, I'm like, oh man, I could do with an apple right now.
Nice little Honeycrisp apple action. Yeah.
He's really good at that. And then there's this really like sweet but sad moment where he's like, you're getting too old, you're not going to come back to Narnia. And it is like this very sad moment. It reminds me of, do you like, speaking of movies, do you like Studio Ghibli? Did you ever see Kiki's Delivery Service?
Yes, yeah. The
So,
the
like,
Kiki's delivery service, the scene at the beginning where the parents eat the food, I feel like also reminded me of the scene at the table. I think that was also why I was like, "Oh, if you don't eat the food because 'cause you're gonna turn into
you mean,
pigs."
do you mean Spirited Away? Or
Oh,
you,
yeah, you're right, you're
yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Sorry.
also Spirited Away, I remember I was like, oh, that food looks so good. This,
Yes.
eat it all. And then I was like, oh no, they're turning into pigs.
Yeah.
So good. Kiki's Delivery Service is the one where she's a witch.
Yes, yeah, sorry.
No, that's fine. But so in that one, she has a cat that she can talk to. And one of the saddest moments in like cinema for me is like at the end of that movie, even after she's figured everything out and saved the day, Kiki can no longer talk to her cat.
Oh, yeah.
And because like one of the things that she's lost is she's like growing up is not hurting the cat. And you think it's just like it's gonna be fixed at the end, but it's not. And it's kind of left mysterious in the movie, but the way I read it is like she's just now too old. Like that doesn't
Mhm.
work anymore, which is
Yeah.
like devastating because like obviously I love cats, as you have
Mhm.
seen in this video, but also like that idea of like at some point,
You lose a friend almost.
yeah, your childhood is gone and there's nothing that you can replicate it with, which is very heavy, but like
Mhm.
I think is really impactful at the end of this.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a really good, parallel to this because Lucy says, like, "It's not even that I'm losing Narnia, it's that I'm losing you to
Hmm.
Aslan. It's like, I'm not gonna be able to see you," and that's when he's like, really explicitly like, "I also exist in your world."
Hmm. Yep.
But yeah, I thought that was a really bittersweet ending, and again, sort of like very mature ending, like for
Yeah.
Narnia. Like it's not just a happy children's book at this point.
Yeah. Certainly not. Yeah, it is kind of a sadder ending. Because Reba Cheap also is a little sweet, but there is some bitterness in it. Because it is like, yeah, he kind of dies. He goes away from this
Yeah.
world, in some ways. Even though it's maybe like triumphant. Then Eustace is gonna come back. Actually, he doesn't say that, but it's like, hey, you don't need to know. I do like that, like,
Yeah, he's like,
hey,
"You don't wanna know."
come on. Um, which is great. And then wait, is it here or later that they talk about Lucy like being friends with her friend at some point, like the friend that she do they say that in the magician chapter where like the friend that
Yeah.
she overhears, she later like gives the benefit of the doubt to? Does that happen in that
Yeah,
chapter, not at the
it
end?
happens in that chapter where she
Okay.
talks to Aslan and she's like yeah, she has a conversation with Aslan about it.
Okay. Yeah, and then the end we find out that Caspian gets to marry his nameless bride who's super
Yeah,
hot and
Ramondu's
she's just
daughter.
Ramondi's daughter. Um and they have a bunch of kids. And then I think you probably really enjoy this ending. The other thing to note is that back in our own world, everyone soon started saying how Eustace had improved and how you'd never know him for the same boy. Everyone except Aunt Alberta, who said he had become very commonplace and tiresome, and it must have been the influence of those Pevensey children. And that's the end of the novel.
This is so good.
One more
I j
shot at Alberta.
Yeah. There's gotta be a couple out there that C.S. Lewis knew and was just like, "Those damn Cantabrigians and their annoying ass kid. I'm
Yeah,
gonna write a book about them."
I can almost hear like he's like typing on a typewriter in his study and just being like like as a, like one
Yeah.
more shot he can get in at his Cambridge friends.
I wonder if the Sackville Bagginses are based off of Cantabrigians as well.
That I love that for that to be
They're
now
the same. Alberta and
headcanon.
Harold are like they're the
They're the
same.
Sackville Bagginses.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
This was great, Andy. This is so much fun. I love this book.
Yes, I think this is. It's always fun to talk books with you, but this is much more fun than Prince Caspian. There's like so. I feel like we were like scraping like the bottom of
We were
the
like, okay.
Caspian barrel, and
And
this
then
was
they
just like,
walked through the forest and had some apples.
yeah. Remember how good
Yeah.
the apples were? And then this
Yeah.
one were like 7 deadly sins, 7
Yeah.
lords. Let's talk for 10 minutes, and nope, nothing there, but still had fun. Yeah, this is I think by far my favorite so far. I think it's this, Lion Witch and Prince Caspian pretty easily.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all I got. You got anything else?
No, what's our next book
Our
in
next book
publication order?
is The Silver Chair, and it is December 12th, so we only have half a month. I mean, I know you're not going to read it till the day that we do the next live show, but it's this one. And in the back, it says, How Captive Prince Rilian Escaped from the Emerald Witch's Underground Kingdom.
Return of the Witch.
I think this is, with Magician's Nephew, the darkest Narnia book. This one gets pretty heavy. And I'm really excited about it. I mean, I really think the Narnia series has taken a turn in Lion Witch that it will be pretty steady on until Last Battle.
I'm excited.
We got some good months to get us through the winter.
Indeed. Andy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And everyone in the chat, thank you for joining us on our Narnia adventures. We will see you next time.
And we'll be better about, at least I will be better about trying to tell you where I'm at in Silverchair in our read along on the Discord.
Indeed. I too as well will be better about the Discord.
All right. Bye, y'all, you teetotalers, vegetarians, non-smokers.